The house changed the moment Laura Bennett left. It wasn't loud. Nothing broke. No doors slammed. No arguments lingered in the air. It was quieter than that. The kind of quiet that made the ticking wall clock sound too big. Daniel Bennett stood in the kitchen the morning after she left, staring at 2 mugs on the counter. One still clean. One half full of coffee gone cold. He picked up the wrong one first, then froze, realizing it wasn't his. He set it back down. Across the room, his daughter Emily watched from the hallway, backpack slung over one shoulder. She had come home from college the night before, expecting laughter, maybe pancakes, maybe her parents arguing about the news like always. Instead, she saw her father standing still. "Dad," she said. He blinked like he'd been pulled out of water. "Yeah. Morning. You okay?" "Of course." He forced a small smile and finally lifted his own mug. "Just thinking." Emily nodded, but she didn't believe him. Daniel had always been steady. Predictable. The kind of man who woke up at the same time every day, parked in the same spot at work, and grilled burgers every Sunday even when no one asked. But now he looked restless. He glanced at the empty chair at the table. Laura's chair. Emily followed his eyes. Mom's gone for 5 days, she thought. Why does it feel like weeks already? He grabbed his jacket too fast, nearly knocking over a stack of mail. "I'll be in the garage later," he said. "Why?" "Just cleaning." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Rain tapped against the windows. The hallway light glowed faintly under her door. Then she heard it, metal scraping. A drawer sliding open. A radio humming low. The garage. She slipped from bed and padded to the stairs. Down below, her father stood under the single bulb, surrounded by boxes. Old boxes. The kind people never throw away because they're too full of memories. He lifted one onto the workbench and opened it. Inside were photo frames, greeting cards, faded envelopes tied with ribbon. Emily stayed hidden. Daniel picked up a card and opened it slowly. Laura's handwriting curved across the page. "Danny, I don't care where we live or what we own. I just want us to keep choosing each other." He swallowed. Another card slid out. "Promise me we'll never stop trying." Daniel pressed the card flat with his palm like it might float away. "I didn't stop," he whispered to no one. "I just forgot how to show it." He sat on the stool, shoulders slumping. Emily felt something twist in her chest. She had grown up thinking her parents were unbreakable. Not perfect, but solid. Movie nights. Shared jokes. Quiet talks at the sink while dishes soaked. But lately, she'd noticed how Mom folded laundry alone. How Dad answered work emails at dinner. How they kissed goodnight without really stopping. The next morning, Emily found him in the kitchen again. Only this time, there was a piece of paper on the counter. Not mail. A list. She leaned closer. Flowers. Music. Lights. Photo albums. Her favorite meal. Her brows pulled together. Daniel walked in behind her and stopped short. "Oh." She lifted the page. "What's this?" He hesitated. "Nothing. Dad." He sighed, the sound tired and honest. "Your mom's been carrying a lot," he said. "Work. Me. Life." I didn't notice how heavy it got. Emily waited. "I want to do something," he added. "Before she comes back." "Like a surprise?" "Like a reminder." She smiled slowly. "That's better." They didn't waste time. That afternoon, Emily rode with him to the store. Daniel wandered the aisles like he'd never shopped for romance before. He stared at a wall of flowers. "Too bright?" he asked. Emily shook her head and pointed. "Those. Pink?" She loves pink. He nodded like he'd just been given an important code. In the music section, he picked up 3 albums, then put 2 back. She played this one when we dated, he said, holding an old soul record. Then that's the one. They bought candles. Twinkle lights. Ingredients he had to read twice to make sure he remembered the recipe right. Back home, he dragged a ladder out of the hall closet. You still know how to cook this? Emily asked. I think so. That doesn't sound confident. I'll practice. He burned the first attempt. And the second. Emily laughed. Daniel did too. It was the first time she'd heard him laugh like that in days. That night, she found him in their bedroom sitting on the floor with photo albums stacked around him. He flipped through one slowly. Laura at 25, hair flying in the wind. Laura holding baby Emily. Laura asleep on the couch with a book on her chest. She used to look at me like I hung the moon, he said. Emily sat beside him. She still does. He shook his head. Not lately. Dad, she said gently, she waited 23 years for you to notice again. That counts for something. He closed the album and wiped his eyes before she could see too clearly. Friday felt close. Too close. Daniel checked the weather 3 times. Reread the grocery list. Practiced the meal again. He stood in the doorway of the garage that night, staring at the boxes he'd opened. For years, he'd kept their memories stored away. Safe. Untouched. Now they felt like warnings. Or promises. He picked up the old note one more time. Promise me we'll never stop trying. I'm trying now, he said quietly. The house was still empty. But something had started moving again. Daniel woke up early the next morning with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. The house was still quiet, the only sound the kettle hissing on the stove. He moved quickly, scribbling on a sheet of paper as ideas came to him. Emily found the list on the counter beside her cereal bowl. She read it, eyebrows raised. Flowers. Music. Lights. Photo albums. Her favorite meal. Emily shook her head, half amused, half impressed. Dad, are you serious? She asked, watching him pour coffee like a man preparing for battle. I'm serious, he said, rubbing his temples. I realized I've let things slip. Life got in the way, I guess. But now, I want her to feel special again. Special how? Emily asked. Daniel hesitated. He wasn't used to saying things like this out loud. I want her to feel chosen. Not just tonight, but remembered. Loved. His voice cracked slightly, and Emily noticed the tremor. She smiled. Then you're doing it right. They started immediately. First stop, the florist. Daniel wandered down the aisles, lost among roses, tulips, and daisies, staring blankly at colors. He picked up a bright red bouquet. Too much? He asked. Emily shook her head and guided him toward the soft pink roses tucked at the back. These, she said gently. She loves pink. Daniel nodded, almost shyly. He wrapped the flowers carefully, making sure each bloom faced upward. She notices details, he muttered to himself. I want to get it right. Next, they moved to the music store. Daniel's fingers hovered over album covers, hesitant. He picked up one, then put it back, frowning. Is this? Emily laughed softly. The one from your first dance? That's the one, Dad. He held it reverently, like it was fragile. Right, he said. Right. From there, they gathered candles, string lights, and supplies for Laura's favorite meal. Every step, Daniel asked questions, checked labels, and reread recipes as if he were preparing for a final exam. Emily followed, quietly guiding him, occasionally nudging him toward the right aisle. Back at home, Daniel carried the supplies inside with the precision of someone handling treasures. He spread them across the dining table, inspecting each item. We'll need more lights, he said. And maybe, the softest candles. Emily smiled. You're going all out. He shrugged. She deserves it. That afternoon, Daniel began his practice run in the kitchen. Emily watched as he measured, stirred, and tasted, sometimes grimacing, sometimes grinning. The lemon chicken didn't turn out perfect the first time, or the second, but he didn't give up. He wanted it right for her. He wanted the moment to feel effortless when she walked through the door, though he knew the effort behind it would be clear. While Daniel cooked, Emily went upstairs to do a small inventory of decorations. When she returned, he was sitting on the floor of the living room surrounded by photo albums and scrapbooks. He picked one up, flipped through pages slowly, tracing the faces with his finger. Laura, young and carefree, smiling at him across a sunlit beach. Laura holding Emily as a baby, laughing at something only she understood. Each memory seemed alive again. She used to look at me like I hung the moon, Daniel said, voice low. She still does, Emily said softly. No, he replied, shaking his head. Not lately. I think I stopped noticing her. Emily sat beside him. You're noticing now. That counts. Daniel nodded, eyes wet but smiling faintly. I want to make her feel like she matters again. Like she's the reason I get up in the morning. The next day, Daniel started decorating. He hung string lights along the ceiling beams, draped soft white cloth over the dining table, and placed candles at every corner. He adjusted each candle until it burned evenly. Emily observed, silently helping when she could, knowing he didn't ask for guidance. As night fell, Daniel practiced the final touches. He tested the lights, the music, and even reheated the chicken he'd perfected the day before. Each step was careful and deliberate. He wanted the moment to feel seamless, as if every detail had been waiting just for her. Emily noticed a change in him. The father she'd always known, practical, methodical, a little serious, was replaced by someone softer, more open. His gestures were careful but intimate. His movements had purpose. Even in his small smiles, she saw vulnerability she hadn't noticed before. Later, Emily overheard him talking quietly to himself in the bedroom. I hope this reminds her that I still see her. That I still love her. Emily didn't interrupt. She understood. This wasn't just about flowers or lights or a meal. It was about Daniel reaching across years of routine and distraction, trying to reclaim something he had let slip through his fingers. By the third day, everything was almost ready. The kitchen smelled like fresh lemon and roasted chicken. Candles lit the living room softly, and the albums were stacked neatly on a table for Laura to find. Daniel walked through the house, checking every corner. He turned the doorknobs gently, listened to the way the music filled the rooms, and ran his hands over the backs of chairs, adjusting them just so. Emily watched him and realized this was more than a surprise. It was an act of love. Not flashy or dramatic, but steady, careful, intentional. It was his way of saying, without words, I still choose you. That night, Daniel sat in the living room alone for a while, staring at the soft glow of candles and lights. He held a photo from their wedding day, tracing Laura's face with his thumb. I didn't forget, he whispered. I just lost track. Emily found him there. Dad? He looked up, eyes glistening. I want it to be perfect. You already are, she said. Daniel gave a small laugh, brushing a tear from his cheek. Maybe tonight she'll see it too. Emily smiled. She will. You've remembered what really matters. He nodded, taking a deep breath. Friday would come soon, and everything he had planned would finally meet reality. He felt nervous, yes, but hopeful too. The quiet house had transformed into something alive, charged with anticipation. The meals, the music, the lights, they were all symbols of effort, of intention, of love remembered and reclaimed. Emily went to bed that night with a sense of pride and wonder. Her father had changed, just a little, in ways that mattered. He was no longer just Daniel Bennett, the steady, predictable father. He was a man trying, really trying, to be present and to make someone feel adored again. Daniel stayed up late, moving decorations, arranging albums, and finally sitting down on the floor with his hands clasped. He closed his eyes and whispered a small prayer. Let her feel seen. Let her feel loved. Let this remind her we still choose each other. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Inside, the house hummed with soft lights and quiet anticipation. Emily peeked once more from the staircase and smiled. Friday was coming. And Daniel was ready to show Laura what had been in his heart all along. Rain fell softly outside as the day Laura Bennett returned home. The sky was gray, the kind of gentle drizzle that made the streets shimmer, and Daniel stood at the door, checking the lights for the 100th time. Candles flickered on the table, string lights glowed along the ceiling, and soft music from an old record played in the background. Every detail he had planned seemed small on its own, but together they created a quiet warmth that filled the house. Emily peeked from the stairs, watching her father pacing nervously. His hands shook slightly as he adjusted the last candle. "You okay?" she asked softly. "No," he admitted, voice low, but a smile tugged at his lips. "But I'm doing it anyway." Emily smiled. "Mom's going to love it." Daniel exhaled deeply, running a hand through his hair. He thought of the years they had spent together, long days, busy schedules, little moments that had gone unnoticed. And now, tonight, he wanted to remind Laura why they had chosen each other in the first place. The sound of the front door caught his attention. The latch clicked, and Laura stepped inside, travel-worn, her coat damp from the rain. Her suitcase rolled behind her, and for a moment, she just froze, taking in the soft glow of the lights, the warm scent of dinner, and the gentle hum of music filling the room. "Danny." Her voice was surprised, tentative, almost like she was afraid to break the spell. He appeared in the doorway, slightly flushed from nerves, holding nothing but his presence. "Hi," he said simply. Laura's eyes widened as she took a slow step forward. What's all this?" He gestured to the dining room. "I made dinner. And I wanted to talk." Her suitcase was abandoned in the hallway as she followed him in, unsure what to expect. The table was set perfectly, the candles casting dancing shadows across the room. Roses sat in a vase in the center, their soft pink petals glowing in the warm light. Music played softly, the kind of song they had listened to on long drives when they first fell in love. Emily, still on the stairs, held her breath. She wanted to see the moment her parents reconnected, to witness the quiet magic her father had worked tirelessly to create. Daniel gestured for Laura to sit, pulling out her chair and guiding her gently. He poured wine into her glass with careful precision, watching her reaction with nervous eyes. "I've been lazy with my love," he said quietly, as though the words had been waiting inside him for years. "I didn't stop caring, I just stopped showing it." Laura's eyes softened, a flicker of emotion crossing her face. She didn't speak immediately. She just looked at him, searching, waiting. "I want to fix that," he continued, his voice steady now, but full of honesty. "Every day. Not just tonight." Laura's lips curved slightly into a smile, small but genuine. "Danny. I didn't need perfection," she whispered. "I just needed to feel seen." Daniel reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers lightly. "Then I want to see you. Really see you. And show you every day that you matter." Emily's heart tightened as she watched them. This was the father she had always known, steady, strong, quiet, but here, she saw him vulnerable, open, willing to risk embarrassment to express his love. And her mother, Laura, was responding, letting herself feel it after so long. "Danny," Laura said, her voice catching. "You still make me nervous." "I was hoping I would," he said softly, his eyes glimmering with emotion. "I want to remember what it feels like to chase you, even after all these years." They lingered at the table, talking softly, sipping wine, sharing small laughs. The rain continued to tap gently against the windows, blending with the quiet music. Each word, each glance, each brush of their hands seemed to rebuild something fragile but beautiful between them. Emily watched the two of them sway gently in the living room, moving to the rhythm of the music, as if they were dancing without even thinking. The lights flickered across their faces, soft and warm, highlighting the connection that had never truly faded. After a while, Daniel led Laura to the living room. The candles and lights made the space glow like it had been prepared for a dream. He pressed a button on the projector, and a flicker of light appeared on the wall. Laura gasped softly. "Danny, what is this?" The wall came alive with images, grainy but warm. Videos from their wedding day, moments captured on tape years ago, played in sequence. Laura's laughter, her hair catching sunlight, Daniel spinning her around, their first dance. Every memory, every moment, was there. Daniel watched her face closely. "I found the tapes in the attic," he said. "I transferred them last month. I wanted us to remember." Laura's hands trembled slightly as she reached out to touch the projected image of herself. "You kept all this?" she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "I kept everything," he said simply. "Even the small things I thought didn't matter. I wanted us to have a reminder." Emily leaned against the railing, watching quietly. She felt tears welling in her eyes. The effort her father had poured into this night wasn't about grand gestures. It was about remembering. About honoring the small, tender moments that had built a lifetime together. The video ended on their first dance. Daniel took Laura's hand, and without a word, they moved into the middle of the living room. The rain outside became a soft accompaniment to the music and the rhythm of their hearts. They didn't rush, didn't need to. They just held each other, swaying gently, reconnecting in a way that years of routine had nearly hidden. "I want us to keep falling for each other," Daniel said softly, his forehead resting against hers. Laura's eyes glistened. "We've never really stopped," she admitted. Daniel smiled, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Then let's not. Not ever." Emily watched from above, feeling a quiet joy swell in her chest. This was more than a surprise, more than a dinner or lights. It was a renewal, a promise rediscovered, a love that refused to fade. Later, as the rain softened, Daniel pulled a folded note from his pocket. He handed it to Laura without a word. She opened it slowly, reading each line carefully. "Laura, I still choose you. On tired mornings. On loud days. On quiet nights. On every ordinary Tuesday. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it again." Tears slid down Laura's cheeks as she leaned into him. Daniel held her gently, letting her cry, letting the moment linger, knowing words weren't needed beyond what he had written. Emily finally smiled, realizing the quiet house was no longer just empty. It was alive again. Filled with love, with effort, with the kind of care that didn't always need grand gestures but showed in every small, intentional act. Tonight wasn't about perfection. It was about remembering. About choosing each other again. And as Daniel and Laura stood there, holding each other, Emily knew one thing for certain: some love stories didn't need fireworks. They needed presence. Patience. And the courage to try again, even after years had passed. The rain outside slowed, the music hummed softly, and the lights glowed on. In the quiet warmth of the house, two people rediscovered the heartbeat of their life together. And Emily knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one built on intention, tenderness, and a love worth remembering. Daniel and Laura sat together in the living room, still holding hands after the soft, swaying dance to their favorite old song. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle outside, and the warm glow of candles and string lights made the room feel like a private little world. Daniel looked at her and smiled, the kind of smile that held years of love, regret, hope, and promise all at once. "I have one more thing," he said quietly, reaching toward a small table in the corner. He pressed a button, and the projector flickered to life again. On the wall appeared a grainy but familiar video, their wedding day. Laura's eyes widened, a gasp escaping her lips. "Oh my. Danny, where did you even," she began, her voice trembling. I found the tapes in the attic, he said simply. Transferred them last month. I wanted us to see us. Remember what it felt like back then. The video showed their wedding morning, Laura laughing with her bridesmaids, the nervous smiles, the flurry of excitement. Daniel watched her face closely, noticing how her eyes softened, how she leaned slightly toward the wall as if drawn into the memory. The next clip played, Daniel spinning Laura in the parking lot before the ceremony, laughter ringing out as the wind caught her dress. Then, the first dance. Every smile, every glance, every touch replayed on the wall, each frame a reminder of the love they had chosen years ago and had somehow allowed life to push into the background. Laura's hand shook slightly as she reached for Daniel's. You kept all this?" she whispered, almost in disbelief. "I kept everything," he said simply. "Even the little things I thought didn't matter. I wanted you to see that I remember. That I never forgot." Emily leaned against the staircase, watching quietly. Her chest felt tight with pride and emotion. She had never seen her father so open, so vulnerable, so intent on showing his love in a way that went beyond words. And her mother, Laura, was letting herself feel it, letting the memories wash over her, letting the love of a lifetime sink back into her heart. The video ended on their first dance. Daniel stood, holding Laura's hand. He motioned toward the center of the room. "Dance with me?" he asked softly. Laura hesitated for only a moment before letting him guide her. They moved slowly, deliberately, without music this time, letting their memories and hearts provide the rhythm. Daniel rested his forehead against hers, his hands warm and steady, holding her in a way that said everything without needing words. "I don't want us to become strangers who share a house," Daniel said quietly. "I want to keep falling for you. Even when it's hard." Laura's eyes glistened. "You've already done that tonight," she whispered. "And it's working." They held each other in silence for a few moments, letting the weight of the years, the missed small gestures, and the forgotten details lift off their shoulders. Emily watched from above, tears threatening to spill, knowing that this moment, quiet, intimate, intentional, was more powerful than any grand gesture could have been. Finally, Daniel reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded note. He handed it to Laura without speaking. She opened it carefully, reading slowly, savoring every word. "Laura. I still choose you. On tired mornings. On loud days. On quiet nights. On every ordinary Tuesday. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it again." Tears slid down Laura's cheeks, soft and relieved. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest. Daniel held her tightly, feeling her warmth and weight, the soft rise and fall of her breath. It was a gentle, quiet connection, but it carried everything they had ever needed: love, commitment, and recognition. Emily watched from the stairs, smiling. She realized that her father's actions weren't about perfection. They weren't about grandeur. They were about effort. About remembering the small, important things that built a life together. He had taken the time, the thought, the energy to make sure his wife felt loved and chosen, truly, fully, intentionally. Daniel whispered into Laura's hair, "I promise I'll keep trying. Every day. Every ordinary Tuesday. Every quiet moment. I won't let this fade again." Laura's arms tightened around him. "I know you will," she said. "You've shown me tonight that love isn't just about feelings. It's about showing up. Every single day." They stayed there for a long moment, swaying gently in the soft candlelight, their hearts synchronized in a rhythm that had never really left but had been buried under years of routine. Emily leaned against the railing, quietly letting them have this time. She texted her best friend later, just one sentence. "My dad just reminded my mom why she married him." The rain outside softened further, almost as if the world itself had paused to witness the quiet miracle happening inside that home. The music still hummed softly in the background, but it didn't matter. They had created their own rhythm, a rhythm of understanding, effort, and love rediscovered. After a while, Laura pulled back slightly and looked at him. "You remembered everything," she said softly. "Every little thing. You made me feel special again. I can't. I can't tell you how much this means. Daniel smiled, brushing a stray hair from her face. You don't have to tell me. I can see it in your eyes. And I can feel it. That's enough for me. They sat together on the couch, hands entwined, letting the quiet evening envelope them. Daniel had made a promise, not just in words, but in action. He had taken time, effort, and thought, and transformed a simple night into a living memory that reminded them both why they had chosen each other years ago. Emily stayed on the stairs, watching quietly, feeling a deep swell of happiness. Her father had done something amazing. Not flashy, not dramatic, not even loud. But powerful enough to touch the heart of the person he loved most. And her mother had received it fully, letting herself be reminded of the reasons she had said yes so long ago. Finally, as the night grew late, the rain stopped. The lights, soft and golden, still glowed across the room. Daniel and Laura stayed in each other's arms, quiet and content, knowing that the effort, the intention, and the love they had put into that night would ripple into the days to come. Emily went to her room finally, smiling to herself. She realized something important: love didn't need fireworks. Sometimes, it only needed presence. Attention. Effort. A promise remembered and shown. And in that house, filled with warmth, light, and the quiet glow of rediscovered love, Daniel and Laura began a new chapter. One where they actively chose each other again, every day, in every quiet, ordinary, perfect way. The night ended gently, like a soft exhale. Candles flickered out, music faded, but the feeling lingered. Effort and love had created a quiet miracle, and the family would carry it forward, knowing that some love stories don't just start, they are continuously rebuilt, one intentional moment at a time. Emily texted one last time before bed. Some love stories don't need fireworks. They just need someone willing to try. Daniel and Laura held each other tightly, smiling softly, knowing that was exactly what they had done. And that was enough.